we think that now that the building is also established and known and quality, that there's some bicoastal interest. There's always an aspect of people who are here for a period of time, and they could be renting a big house with maintenance issues and maintenance problems in the hills, or they can rent, you know, someplace up in the air at the top of Sunset and Vine. So there are all those different qualities which will attract people. We've worked hard to get the studios tied in with all of the major employers within this area, but also to kind of develop the word of mouth that Megan's talking about. I'll give you, as we were starting to really dig into our marketing program, and the unit on the south side of this floor is 1701, was still under construction, but you know, sort of dusty, that it was taking shape, and it's pretty, one could understand what it was about. I brought in a friend who's been selling real estate in Los Feliz, Silver Lake, this whole area for 20, 30 years, dealing with exactly the various generations of this market. And I said, you know, just come in and tell us what you think the minimum starting rent will be. And literally, she just walked in, and as soon as the door opened, she said $10,000. And that was pretty gratifying as a starting point to know that the numbers that we knew we had to get to were you know, people could see the value.
So what would this unit rent for?
It's rented. It is in fact rented, and we didn't think it would be available tonight. So
they're moving in tomorrow.
You're moving in tomorrow. So don't scratch anything.
I was having this event in this apartment. Oh my God! I was like, we're having it in 17 too.
So the leftovers are part of the book.
Exactly. Like, oh, we brought you lunch for your movers.
Excuse me. Yes, I have a vested interest for asking the question. Own property, 5-minute walk from here. But what impact do you think the new zoning change will have with respect to allowing high-rise buildings now? What type of competition, or what do you think the dynamic will be prospectively on this?
You know, I'm kind of skeptical of the effect of community planning as a tool. It has been understood and expected that there would be density as approved in the community plan, or as, it's not approved, as suggested in the community plan for the last 10, 15 years in Hollywood, and in the same locations. What it did was just reconcile prior expectations to the language, but it does not permit by right any development of any substance. So despite the community plan approval, every significant project will go through a full entitlement involving most likely a full VIR. And there is a group of people in Hollywood right now who have pursued every project and held it up in court. In fact, the beautiful building that we're going to build at Sunset and Gordon was conceived and carefully negotiated with CRA and the city and neighbors to have every bell and whistle on it. When it was finally approved and got through the CEQA certification in 2008, it was sued. The owners lost it, and it didn't come out. The bank was not able to even begin to market the building until early 2011. That environment across the state has to change. And I would say that ULI and many organizations right now are highly focused on the degree to which CEQA, not only for litigation reasons, but just as it flies in the face of the logic of urban development, that we have to do environmental impact on what is acknowledged as the least impactful way to grow. I would say as an organization, to ULI and to all of the related organizations, this is the number one issue, and in some ways there is a little bit of an opening in the legislature and in the politics of the state to look at that, even on the environmental side as well as on the builder side.
Is the parking tandem or is it side by side?
The residential parking is all side by side, but some of the public parking are the valet parking.
And we do have some tandem spaces downstairs. We just lease those as additional spaces, but everyone gets a side-by-side space.
And just going off of what you had just said, it seems like in the more suburban markets that the home builders rely on the BIA as more of a lobbying organization, and ULI doesn't really lobby as political. So what organizations?
That's a softball for me, because last year, I was involved, and a number of other people statewide were involved in formation of a organization intended to lobby solely for urban infill, called the California Infill Association. And we're still looking to build membership, and particularly among builders and people to add that credibility. We believe that the two sides in land use do not have a dog in this hunt. Something like that.
It's a fight.
Well, a fight going in this fight. But it really, CEQA reform or the elimination of CEQA in urban infill should not be an exception. Certainly the environmental side worries about losing valuable points of principle. And so that's our job, is to bring the environmental side to the table. California, the BIA, while many of its members are doing urban development, its bread and butter is supporting large volumes of urban development. And so their lobbying efforts, when their lobbyists walk down the halls of the legislature, the legislators don't see an urban infill developer walking through. They see, a home builder, and yet there is a substantial industry that I think will increasingly be not the only source of growth in California, but that is urban. And we need a different framework. We don't have a state framework that defines the priority of urban policy. We have laws that were written 30 years ago when none of this was even possible, conceived. And so there is a tremendous need for change, because in hot times you'll see one or two one-off projects. We've seen a lot in Hollywood. But I'll tell you, to do every project is like doing a 1,500-acre subdivision of raw land, whether it's a 50-unit development or on a lot-by-lot basis. There's no difference in the entitlement process between that and what a land developer does out in New Home in terms of the process and the time, and that doesn't make sense. So
Traffic's easy.
so it's really kind of my biggest issue in thinking about what we can do to change the environment around here. The adaptive reuse ordinance is demonstration of the fallacy of all other planning that governs land use, and that in downtown and here, you've been able to take buildings that do not have open space, do not have height, that exceed density, that do not have parking, that do not meet any of the standard planning requirements, that have been very valuable, very successful, very well received by the market. And it makes you ask the question, why do we have those standards? And then why, when you're doing the right thing, do you have to get exceptions to those standards? So, other questions? Yeah.
How do you see the impact of the dissolution of CRA affecting housing?
It's a short-term, its biggest impact is on affordable housing. There are a lot of affordable housing projects that are hanging on the ability of CRAs across the state to fund. There's legislation that apparently Steinberg is sponsoring right now that would turn around that part of the dissolution law that would allow the future set-aside tax increment to pass through to existing housing agencies. It seems like a no-brainer, but it's a lot of money, and there may be other issues. Certainly, our experience is that every successful urban district has reestablished a continuous investment process of public capital. Its districts are seen as profit centers for cities. It's not one-time projects. It's not one-off, glamorous. It's a continuous investment process. That has been sustained in many ways in most cases by redevelopment, and in Hollywood and in LA, and sometimes in tandem with transit and other kinds of activity. For now, that and many other sources are not going to be available. I think that there will be a reinvention, different ways, but we will be without that for a while, and you'll see some impact.
John, I have a question. What do you think makes CIM more successful over some of the other maybe smaller type developers who have tried to launch projects but got a lot of, apprehension from the city members, the residents that live there?
I don't think that, I think that we face the same, in our early days, it was kind of amazing because we were coming in doing projects that were what everybody wanted in their old main streets. And it was like, how quick can you do it? And we didn't even, now we face the same political, neighborhood, sort of entitlement challenges of acquiring property. We face the same barriers to entry that every other small developer faces. However, I think urban development relies heavily on access to a lot of equity. And a lot of fee development, a lot of typical development that does not, where the sponsor does not bring the equity necessary to do the project that they know is right, have not been able to do as well. And it's always been, CIM has always operated off of an equity base and brought financing in, to be smart, but not, but being able to meet the requirements of lenders without, and having a lot of skin in the game as well. And we look to the same with our joint venture partners, where people bring projects to us, that they have real equity in the game, and that they're not just developers. They're great fee developers who package projects with great vision, get a lot accomplished on the entitlement, have outstanding vision. But the problem is at the end of the day, it has to be funded. And we're there from the beginning on our project.